All right, then we're going to get started this afternoon. Welcome, everybody, to the annual Myer Horowitz Forum. This is the biggest, best, and final forum of the 2012 general election of the Executive Committee and Board of Governors representative. Again, thank you all for coming. My name is Zach Fentiman. I'm the Chief Returning Officer this year, so I'll be moderating this forum this afternoon. Before we get right into it, there are many candidates, so we'll get this underway as soon as possible. I will just go over the ground rules and speaking points here. Essentially, for you, the audience, the only rules that we have is no heckling, but applause is fine, and no throwing things. If you do, we'll ask you to leave. We'll hold up the whole thing, and then you'll have to take a walk of shame to the door there. Basically, for the candidates, we will pick races in turn. They will have an opportunity to give a 1-minute, 30-second speech. Then they will have, in turn, an opportunity to ask a question, max 20 seconds to ask a question. They will each be given a 45-second window to provide a response. After all of the races have done this in turn, there will be an opportunity for you folks to ask questions. There's a microphone to my right and to my left over on the edges there. So when we ask for audience questions, feel free to line up and ask questions. Please ask questions to an entire race. The question must be directed at the entire race. Also, questions that target a particular individual in a race will not be allowed. With that underway, we'll get started. The first speaker will be from the UPass Yes campaign. Emerson Chorba. So you have 1 minute and 30 seconds, starting from when you speak. If you exceed the time, I will cut you off from here. Say thanks. Sit back down. Okay.
Okay, thanks guys. So first off, good afternoon, and I'll keep this really short because I'm sure that you want to listen to the actual candidates. So first off, my name is Emerson Chorba, and I'm the current VP Academic of the SU, but I'm representing the Yes side for the UPass. So first off, what is the UPass? The UPass is currently used by 90% of U of A students, and it provides universal transit to students taking fall and winter courses, and it's for those, or what you can use for it is ETS, the LRT, Strathcona County, and St. Albert Transit. And just a few stats. So first off, it's used by 90% of U of A undergraduate students. And there's also 84% of students that are either satisfied or very satisfied with UPass. So that's part of why we decided to propose this referendum for expanding it. So with the spring and summer UPass, we are looking to expand it into the May to August area. And if implemented, the spring and summer UPass would only be provided to students registered in at least one spring or summer course. So if you're only taking fall or winter, and no spring or summer, then you wouldn't have access to this UPass. It's only if you take a spring or summer course. And the cost would be $116, so that's approximately what the cost is right now for one semester for either fall or winter. And the UPass would be partially subsidized by approximately $23 by the U of A. So that's pretty much it. Any increase in the cost of the UPass would be tied to CPI.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's it. So if you guys have any questions, please ask at the end.
Thank you. The next referenda is Sub Reno. Yes. Speaking Rory Tye.
Nothing? Okay. Okay. Okay, so I'm here to speak to you on behalf of the Sub-Renovation Yes campaign. So the referendum basically is whether or not you would like to pay a $9 fee to renovate the Students' Union facilities. So the main project that we're talking about right now is the Students' Union building itself. And the reason this referendum is coming up right now is really a need that's currently not being met by facilities. So you're going to hear all the candidates talk about things like engagement, involvement, communication, and I think that our current facilities are actually hindering our ability to fulfill all of those goals. So if you go down to the lower level or basically any student group office in our building, you'll see that there really is a lack of space and also a lack of quality space for groups to use for their own initiatives and also to interact with one another. So this renovation could add a whole lot of student group space being used for offices, and also general lounge space. Could also improve drastically our services in the lower level by making them more accessible and visible to students, and also increasing the interaction between different services and volunteers, hopefully creating some cross-pollination in volunteers and users of the services. And we're also going to see a pretty drastic increase in the light to the building and the relaxation and social space. So again, since our last renovation in about 2002, 2003, there's been a huge increase in the amount of student groups, a huge increase to the use of our services, and a huge increase to our campus population. So our building simply right now, in my opinion, is not sustaining the level of involvement that students are demanding, and that's why this referendum is coming into play. So basically $9 a term, and you pay for all those things. Thanks.
Before we move to the candidates for the positions, I'd like to remind everybody that we are streaming live through the Students' Union websites, and this video will be retrievable at a later point in time if you'd like to relive the experience. We are, once is enough, right? We're going to be moving on to the Board of Governors representative race. Speaking first will be Rebecca, followed by Brent, and then we'll move into debate style speaking. So Rebecca, 1 minute 30 seconds when you start.
Hey, thank you everyone. Over the past year, I've been the External Communications Coordinator for the Collective Body for Art students. Part of that job requires keeping in contact with faculty, so it's something that I've had a lot of experience in. And one of the things that's really struck me about that role is the way in which CBAS is really regarded as a valuable and just a sought-out voice in the Faculty of Arts. That's something that I'd really like to bring to the Board of Governors representative position. I feel like it's not entirely useless on the board, but it could definitely be a lot better, and I'd really like to bring my experience of communicating with faculty from the CBAS to the Board of Governors representative position. If you want to find out more about how I plan to do this, you can look at my website because I don't really have a whole lot of time to talk, but that's really my main goal for the next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Brent?
Hello everyone, my name is Brent Kelly and I'm running for Undergraduate Board of Governors representative. I'm running because it is time to bring some new energy to the table when it comes to the BOG rep position. The relationship between the student body and the board is relatively good, and this is a good thing. If elected, I will ensure this good relationship is maintained. However, at the same time, I believe we need a stronger voice for student interest on the board. The position in the past has not been used to advocate for student interests strongly enough. Couple this with the fact that the student voice is already underrepresented on the board, and what you have is a situation where students seem to be losing out again and again at this university. If elected, I will work to see this trend reversed. I will advocate for student interest first and foremost if I am elected to the board. I believe that we need to be consulted more often on more issues, not less. One of my main goals, if elected, will be to restore the student voice by reinstating consultation regarding mandatory non-instructional fees. I am running because it is time to bring new energy into the equation. I feel it is time for a change, and if elected, I will make that change happen. My name is Brent Kelly, and I'm running for Undergraduate Board of Governors representative. Thank you.
We will now allow for the candidates from the Board of Governors representative race to ask each other questions. We'll start with Brent asking a question, 20 seconds to ask a question, followed by Rebecca responding with a 45-second response.
At the Substage Forum on Friday, I asked you what you will do to fight tuition and fee increases, since it is not adequately addressed in your platform. You indicated that fighting tuition increases was not that big of a priority for you. Could you please explain why this is?
Rebecca to respond.
The main reason that it's not a huge part of my platform is because I believe to effectively advocate for something like tuition decreases or even just tuition freezes requires a much better relationship between the Board of Governors representative and the board. I feel like right now the voice of that position isn't quite strong enough to advocate effectively, and really the most that you can do in this position is simply vote no and get outvoted. That's why my platform focuses more on building a better relationship between the position and the Board of Governors.
Rebecca. Now you have an opportunity to ask Brent a question, same time format.
Brent, part of your platform is an investigation into the honorary degree process, which is actually done in the Senate, not in the Board of Governors, which are two completely separate bodies under the Post-Secondary Learning Act. So I'm just wondering how, as a Board of Governors representative, you plan to actually go about conducting this investigation.
Thank you for the question. That's right, absolutely. The Senate and the Board of Governors are two separate bodies. Nevertheless, the Board of Governors is the highest governing authority of this university, and so therefore I believe that there are some actions that could be taken to prevent someone as unethical as the chairman of Nestle Group from ever receiving a degree again. One action that could possibly be taken, for example, is instituting a code of ethics so that for honorary degree recipients. Again, I realize that they are separate bodies, but nevertheless, there are actions that could be taken in the Board of Governors to ensure something like that never happens again. Thank you.
Next, we'll be moving on to the Vice President Student Life Race. This is Sadiq Sumar. You have 1 minute 30 seconds from the time you start speaking.
Awesome. All right. How's it going, everybody? My name's Sadiq. Like Zach said, I'm running for Vice President Student Life. My platform focuses on 4 main areas: communication, making events relevant, wellness, and advocacy in residence. On the communication side, I feel like a lot of times we try to focus on providing information to you guys, and I feel like the mediums aren't that great, but we also don't focus on getting information from the students. A lot of the times we say that we're a students' union, we represent 100% of the student voice, but at the same time we're not listening to everything you guys have to say, and that's something I want to change. Making sure that we get feedback on our events, making sure that you see what you want in the students' union, and making that happen. The second thing is making events relevant. One big thing I'd like to do is bring something called the U of A Music Festival. I'd like to partner with student groups and different organizations on campus to make something like an Edmonton Folk Festival, essentially. On the wellness side, I'd like to bring something along the lines of a Mental Health Awareness Week, because mental health is a huge issue. It's being addressed with the Fall Reading Week, but I think we need to go a step further. And lastly, advocacy in residence, talking about property taxes and the Residence Hall Association. One more thing really quickly that I'd like to focus on for the upcoming year is the athletics program. I'd like to make sure that attendance increases and that we don't start cutting sports left, right, and center like we are currently doing with field hockey. So, voteSadiq.ca, Twitter, all that stuff. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. As entertaining as it would be to have Sadiq debate himself, I think that's impossible. We'll move on to the Vice President of Operations and Finance race. The candidates are Andy, Jessica, Mike, Murtaza. We will start with Jessica, Murtaza, Andy, Mike. That'll be the speaking order, so 1 minute, 30 seconds, Jessica.
Hey everyone, my name is Jessica and I'm running for Vice President, Operations and Finance for the Students' Union. I'm currently serving as Vice President Services for the Interdepartmental Science Student Society, or in short, the ICE, which is the faculty association that represents the largest faculty on campus. Over the past year, I've worked tirelessly to improve existing services, develop multiple services with the consideration of student feedback in mind. Additionally, I have experience drafting up a budget for the ICE's Faculty Association membership fee, which has given me the experience drafting up a large budget while being conscientious of how student money is spent. My main platform points are as follows. First, I'd like to maximize healthy and affordable food options on campus. Second, I'd like to rejuvenate the Students' Union businesses. And third, the implementation of renovations to lower level sub. You'll notice that a lot of things that the candidates in this race want to do, if elected, are similar, but I'd like to quickly address why I think I'm the best candidate for this position. I'm extremely passionate about representing students, as is exemplified through the, on average, 40 hours that I spend a week in my current elected position, alongside many other commitments. As I hope is obvious through what I've said so far, I'm extremely energetic and will work hard as your Vice President, Operations and Finance. If you would like more information on my platform, as well as just myself, I'd encourage you to vote Jessica, or go to votejessica.ca. This Wednesday and Thursday, I hope that you'll vote for Jessica as your Vice President, Operations and Finance. Thank you so much.
Hello, and thank you for coming out today. My name is Mortaza Jamali, and I'm running for Vice President Operations Finance for the Students' Union. In the short time that I have to speak, there are so many things that I want to say, but I will primarily focus on a couple of points from my platform. Over the last week, I've spoken to numerous individuals, and I have found that many of these students share a common vision with me. These students believe that they should have a stronger voice. If elected, this will become one of my primary responsibilities, to ensure that budgetary matters are publicized and students have an opportunity to voice their opinions on where their money is spent. Through a budget forum, I want to embrace students and allow them to gain insight on the $10 million budget. The knowledge possessed by a great deal of students is an untapped resource that I feel the Students' Union should harness. In addition, I want to talk about healthy initiatives. Food options just aren't cutting it in SU businesses, and this is something I intend to change. Vegan, kosher, halal, gluten-free are all options that will find homes in SU businesses if I'm elected, and I want to ensure that all students can eat well at SU businesses. I appreciate you all coming out, as it shows your interest as primary stakeholders in the Students' Union. I look forward to speaking to you all and hope that you will all visit the polls as part of your democratic right. Please visit my website for more information about my points or about who I am. www.votejamali.com.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Andy?
I've been incredibly involved on campus during my 5 years. For example, I helped to create my faculty association, and you'd think that kind of experience would be sufficient to help prepare a person for a position like this one. But in reality, that's simply not the case. Thankfully, I'd also spent a year on Students' Council and on the 4 committees that deal with operations and finance. So last May, I'd already spent a year learning essential background knowledge. I learned that the VP Operations and Finance doesn't create their own budget. They run the budget created by their predecessor. Thus, it is a rare opportunity to have someone in the position 2 years in a row. In addition, I'm a hard worker and an innovator. Last year, I promised you more electrical outlets in sub, and I delivered. This year, I'm driving change through the budget principles. For example, we're allocating more resources towards food preparation equipment so that we can actually begin to deliver healthier options. I look forward to bringing many more changes to fruition in the coming year. And I can do this without learning how. I know how the organization works. I know how the $10 million budget works. I know that 99% of our investments are already socially responsible. And I know that faculty associations are the VP Academics' job. I'm an experienced and reliable vice president that you can continue to depend upon for another year. Please consider one question. Do you want someone who just talks about change, or someone who also knows how to make it happen? My name is Andy Chima, and I'm running for Vice President of Operations and Finance. Thank you.
Mike?
Students, my name is Mike McGann, and I could tell you about my platform, but first I would like to explain to you something. My platform is only mine as it bears my name. I only stand as the face of we, and we are a group of students who would like to see change. We believe that the operations portfolio is the heart of the SU. We believe that lobbying does not properly work until how we operate properly reflects what the SU is, or what students want. This is because actions speak much louder than words. We stand for something that is not just profitable, that is not just efficient, but something no matter how involved a student becomes, he or she is proud to be a part of that union. So what have students asked for? Students have asked for better food practices. 86% in fact said that they cannot access healthy food options, despite help from the Gateway. Students have fought to spread the word of fair trade, and our union has responded with one fair trade tea option currently on campus. Students have asked for easier access to groceries. I say let's give it to them. Students put forth a socially responsible investment policy that our current union has denied, despite the fact that apparently 99% is socially responsible. That is not the end. Students, I do believe, are wanting to speak further. They may not be interested in the accounting practices, but they may be interested in the future of Dewey's, so I say let's ask them. My name is Mike McGinn, and if you choose to vote for me for Vice President Operations and Finance this year, I do just want you to remember that you are not voting for me, you are voting for every student and every student group I have talked to.
Thank you.
You are voting for we. Thank you.
We will move into an opportunity for the candidates of this race to ask questions of each other. The first question will be asked by Murtaza and will be answered in the order Jessica, Mike, Andy. Yeah. 20 seconds.
I realize that some of the other candidates in this race have sub-renovations as one of their platform items. My question comes in the form of, well, what happens if the sub-reno plebiscite doesn't go through? What then do you intend to do in real terms to impact sub-renovations? And also, what consideration have you taken from student groups that are primary stakeholders in that space? Thank you.
Jessica?
Thanks for the question. I think that's a great one, and I definitely considered that when I was addressing my platform. I think that renovations changes in student space are important, and so I definitely look at what is feasible considering the budget that we have. So if the referendum doesn't pass for sub renovations, we obviously have less money. So how can we change space in sub with that money, and how can we do it so that if renovations don't pass, obviously students don't want to spend money towards renovations. So how can we do it minimizing the burden on students? Thank you so much.
Mike?
If it does not pass, I would like to take either three routes. I mean, the first is going to be more consultation. We would definitely have to look at how to expand sub in a way that is going to be less of a burden on students, perhaps bring it back next year to referendum. Second thing we would definitely have to look at is Dewey's. Is Dewey's going to be a better option for students to expand student group space? The lease is expiring. That is definitely something that we could look into negotiating and seeing if we can have a better student group space in that area. Final thing I would like to do is one thing that is just brought up on campus. Maybe we can just look at smaller initiatives like art student space. I know it's brought up a lot to try to consult those guys and see maybe in smaller areas across campus if we can better equip students with proper space. Thank you.
Andy?
If the referendum fails, then I think we need to step back and listen to students. Why did it fail? What are the concerns? Are there common themes that we can address? If so, I think we need to go back with a new proposal. But if a failure indicates a fundamental opposition to paying a fee for a renovation, then we need to take a step back again and look at a smaller scale and shorter term solution that may not accomplish all of the goals of this renovation, but that will still help. Student groups are the primary stakeholders in that part of the building in a renovation, and they're essential to the SU strategy, and they will not be neglected.
Next will be Jessica to ask a question, followed by Mike, Andy, Murtaza.
Okay, so y'all know about the situation with the BSA and how a student embezzled $27,000. So I know a lot of what the VP Academic does is work with faculty associations on that. But in the scope of the Vice President Operations and Finance portfolio, because you are so knowledgeable about budget process and that kind of thing,
Thank you.
How do you think you can fix that?
Thank you. Question is relating to the role of the Operations and Finance portfolio in faculty associations. Mike to answer, 45 seconds.
So I was in attendance at both when originally the embezzlement was brought up to council as well as when it was voted on. I do think the best thing to do is we have to make sure that the faculty associations do ensure up their bylaws to try to make sure that the whole process that actually did occur does not happen again. And that was done by the BSA, but ultimately I do think that we just have to make sure to question better. Not a single question when this was passed was actually asked about the $27,000, which was just a little bit troubling for me. And I do hope that we do question these things a little bit more to find out what went wrong and how better to achieve it next time. But the BSA did do a good job as far as ensuring up their bylaws for next year. Thank you.
Andy?
The situation with the Business Students Association was a single individual that took advantage of a bank error. This is incredibly unfortunate, but it's not a systematic organizational failure. That said, the VP Operations and Finance is responsible for accountability of the SU's money to make sure that no student's money is misspent. However, the Vice President Academic does have primary responsibility over faculty associations. Should the VP Academic initiate a process to review the financial controls of FAs, then I would be more than happy to assist with that and to provide my expertise. Thank you.
Murtaza?
Thank you for the question, Jessica, and I definitely understand that this is something that the VP Academic looks over, and faculty associations are the direct responsibility of the VP Academic. However, I believe that the Students' Union and the collective executives of the Students' Union work together as a group of individuals that can collectively solve problems. As Vice President of Operations and Finance, and having a great deal of knowledge over budgetary matters, when it came to amending SU bylaws, I think one of the most knowledgeable people for the job would be the Vice President of Operations and Finance due to their large background in SU accountability. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before I get to Mike to ask a question, Colton, could I just get you to put that face down? Thank you. Mike to ask a question, 20 seconds, followed by Andy, Murtaza, and Jessica to respond.
Everyone in my race has brought up sustainability at times during this race, and what I would like to know is if you lose this election in life, how do you plan on pursuing sustainability? Thank you.
Andy?
Sustainability is not, strictly speaking, a goal to pursue or an endpoint, but it's a process. It's part of one's lifestyle. And an intrinsic part of the process is making learning about sustainability a lifelong process. I've learned an extraordinary amount in the Students' Union, but I'm certainly not an expert, and I hope to educate myself continually throughout my life and to act on what I learn. Thank you.
Murtaza?
In the dire and unfortunate circumstance that I lose, firstly, sustainability to me is in agreement with Andy, something that you do throughout the entirety of your life. One thing that I love is technology, and one thing that I love even more than technology is green technology. So that's probably the best way that I would pursue sustainability, is finding newer and greener ways to help sustain our Earth. Thank you.
And Jessica.
Okay, so like Andy and Murtaza said, I kind of feel the same in terms of sustainability. In terms of, I don't really know too much about it, too many of the details, I guess. But I do agree that it is a process, and I'd definitely be interested in looking into it a little bit more, what it involves, what other practices are in place, and that kind of thing. It's interesting to always learn from successful practices, and so I'd like to look into that. Thank you.
And the final question from Andy, answered in the order Murtaza, Jessica, Mike.
Consultation is incredibly important to the Students' Union. One of the ideas for consultation that's been brought forth this week, last week, is to run 10 plebiscites at a cost of $10,000 to the Students' Union. My idea is instead to ask these questions at no cost in our annual paperless survey, which actually has a higher response rate than voter turnout. What do you think of my idea?
Murtaza to respond.
Can't believe I'm up here campaigning for somebody else. But I love technology. Paperless is the way to go. So yeah, that'd definitely be the way. I agree. In fact, if there was a greener, more better way to do that, using more advanced technology, I would be pro that.
Jessica?
I hate to say that I also agree. I think that technology is a great way to remain sustainable and also kind of achieve what we want. But if there's other ways that students want to provide us with their feedback that perhaps might be more popular, I think it's worth trying. So that idea so far, it resonates with me, but I'd also like to look into maybe what's more effective than that. Thanks.
And Mike.
Thank you for directing that question at me. Definitely. I mean, it's certainly something I could look into. I mean, once again, we do have to look at Andy as knowing a lot of these finer details that I was not made aware of as of this point in time. So I do think that looking into ways, obviously I am a very strong, passionate person as far as sustainability goes. So if there is ways that we can do this that is going to be cheaper to students, I am definitely going to make sure to pursue that. All I want to make sure is that we actually are asking these questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are the Vice President Operations and Finance candidates. We'll be moving on to the Vice President External candidates. Speaking order, Petros, Adam, Dorothy. 1 minute, 30 seconds.
So this whole week, I've been pitching my platform ideas at you, but now I figured I'd just use this 90 seconds to just chat with you. Now, for me, this position boils down to two things. It boils down to personality, and it boils down to vision. Now, you can have all the knowledge in the world, and for all these portfolios, you need to have, that's a definite prerequisite. But if you don't have the ability to communicate this knowledge, then you're absolutely useless, and you would be better off sitting behind a desk, frankly. Now, for me, when it comes to if you're going to be lobbying to a politician or even engaging students, you need that personality to really engage them, to really share that passion about student issues. And for me, I think that's extremely important in this VP external portfolio. Now, the second thing is vision. Now, in case you haven't noticed, me and the two other candidates have very, very similar platform points. But the thing is, it's because they're all SU political policies. They're all stuff we'd have to do anyways because the SU mandates it. So what really makes us different? It's because I have a sense of vision. I want to throw in a new idea, and I think it's important for us to keep on fighting these fights that are very important, but to also keep on pushing the frontier for student issues. I think one issue that this SU has failed to acknowledge, and the other candidates as well, is about student work. Millions and millions of dollars the government spends on this, but we don't have a voice on this yet. Now, in conclusion, I'll just make two short promises. One promise is that my vision, I promise my vision won't, tiptoe on the earth of mediocrity. But I really promise that I'll try my damn best to shoot for the stars and leave our footprint on the moon when it comes to advocating for student issues. So my name is Petros, and I really hope you guys vote for me. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hi everyone. I also don't like talking behind a podium, so I'm going to talk here if that's okay. My name is Adam Woods. I'm running for Vice President External. I'm a political sciences major here at the U of A, obviously. And as Petros mentioned a little bit earlier, we all have very similar platform points. So just going over what those are really quick, things that we all three of us would like to do. The first is lobby training. Right now, lobby training is a very successful practice that we tried this year. It's getting you guys more engaged in advocacy, and that's one thing we want to do. The second is removing property taxes from students living in Lister and Hub. Right now, Alberta is the only province in Canada that actually charges these taxes on students. And finally, I also want more money towards grants and bursaries. So that's what makes me the same, but what makes me different? My big platform issue is about student loans, and this might not affect many of you, but I'm sure it affects your friends. Right now, just recently, there was a policy here in both Canada and Alberta that stated if you live at home with your parents and they made too much money in a year, you either wouldn't get a loan or it would get reduced significantly. The problem with this is that there's about 21% of middle income class students whose parents give them absolutely no money for education. So these students are put in that gray zone of, I can't get a loan from my parents, I can't get a loan from the government, nobody's giving them money, and they're forced to work a lot of jobs, which I feel is unfair. Recently, there's been changes that the provincial government has made stating that for their share of student loans, that parental income contribution is no longer required, and this is the absolute perfect time to go to the federal government and try to get this changed. That is my big difference. Again, my name's Adam Woods. If you guys want more information, please go to www.woodsforexternal.ca. Thanks for listening and coming out, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
And Dorothy.
Hi everyone, I'm Dorothy Roberts, and like Adam and Petros, I'd like to be your VP External. Some of you probably recognize me from the Collective Body for Arts Students Board of Directors, or as a former arts counselor. I've also worked for the Students' Union for the past year as an external policy researcher. Let me tell you a quick story. I came to the U of A back in 2007, and then I was pretty shy, quiet, didn't really voice my opinions or get involved in anything, and that's all changed. My time at the U of A has fundamentally changed me as a person. I think that everyone should have that opportunity, and not everyone does. That's why I'm running for this position, why I want to be your Vice President External. I want to work towards a University of Alberta where everyone has the opportunity to have life-changing experiences. I want to do that in 3 ways, by increasing accessibility, accountability, and engagement. Alberta has the lowest post-secondary attendance rate in the country. We can change that. We can make post-secondary education in this province more accessible by decreasing costs and increasing needs-based financial aid. We can also provide students with more accountability by regulating mandatory non-instructional fees. And we can encourage student engagement by providing students with ways to engage on campus through programs like advocacy training. So if you'd like to find out more about my platform, check out my website, votedorothy.ca. Thank you all so much for your time, and I look forward to hearing your questions. Remember to vote Dorothy Roberts for VP External on March 7th and 8th.
All right, question time. The first question will go to Adam to be asked and responded by Dorothy and Petros in that order. 20 seconds to ask a question.
So if elected, it is our job to go to the government and lobby them for our goals. However, when you sit down with that government official, you typically only get 30 minutes. Calculating out the number of points my competitors have, they'd each get around 5 minutes for each issue. My question is, if elected, with only a year in term, how would you accomplish all the goals and promises you've made, along with the ones that you've made throughout the campaign? Thank you.
Dorothy to respond.
Thanks, Adam. That's a terrific question. As I mentioned, I've been working in the SU's advocacy department for about the last year, so I'm familiar with the resources that the VP External has at their disposal, and I'm not afraid to work with them. I've also split my campaign promises up between the various levels of government, so I don't think that 5 minutes is necessarily an accurate representation of how much time I would have on each issue. I also have some things that I want to work on that don't need to be worked on in a lobby meeting, like implementing a lobby organization review process and expanding advocacy training. Thanks so much.
Thanks for the question, Adam. As a political science student, you should know that there are also 3 levels of government that we would be lobbying towards. There would be municipal, there would be provincial, and federal. And there are a wide range of different issues when it comes to each. Now, the other thing is, so when it comes to lobbying, we'd be lobbying to those 3, so don't expect all these platform points to be conjunct in 30 minutes. Now, the other thing is there's some stuff that don't necessarily involve lobbying. It involves engaging students, it involves expanding programs that we currently have, it involves proactively meeting students, and it also involves starting a new conversation on student work. That doesn't necessarily require us to start lobbying on it. It starts us by having a conversation with other SUs, seeing is this something we should is it worth lobbying for? Then meeting up with our other lobby organizations that we're part of and start making a front. But there's more to this portfolio than that 30 minutes with the politicians.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's really important. Thanks.
Next question goes to Dorothy, answered by Petros and then Adam. 20 seconds.
As Adam mentioned, the provincial government recently made some changes to the student financial aid program. I'd like the other candidates to please detail everything they know about these changes and whether they think they are positive or negative for students.
Excellent question, Dorothy. So the provincial government has made a lot of changes to student loan programs, one of which is some of the demands that our students have been asking for. And so the changes has been completion grants. So they've had completion grants, $1,000 for people who graduate from like colleges and technical schools, and there's $2,000 for people who graduate from universities. Unfortunately, for those of us who are graduating this semester, we're kind of out of luck. So the other thing that they also have is grants for people who stay in Alberta and work here for 3 years. Some of the other changes they've also made is abolish a parental contribution for the provincial part of the student loans, which is 40% of everyone's student loans. And yeah, they've also made some serious changes in terms of the operating grants that they've given to the universities, and they increased that by 2%, and they have a 3-year funding frame. So that's a lot easier for us, for the university to plan out its budget. So lots of good changes happening, but there's still a lot more issues to be fighting for.
Adam to respond.
So just pertaining to the changes, the big thing is that they no longer really count any kind of assumed income. So before there was parental income, there was whether or not you had a car, there was all sorts of factors that took place into the actual calculation of the loan, and those things are no longer assumed income. Instead, there's a flat rate of $1,500 assumed for everybody, which will be reduced from your loan, and that is what's happened. As to whether the change is good or bad, I'm not going to comment yet because we don't actually know at this point exactly how the change will look. The government has said they're making the change, but at this point we don't know exactly how that change will affect. There's been theories that perhaps the provincial government will cover what the federal government reduces with assumed parental income, which would actually move money around from us in Ministry of Advanced Education. So that could be a bad thing. At the same time, though, it does show promise in the area. It shows that the government is willing to change, and that is exactly what.
Last question to be asked by Petros, answered by Adam and Dorothy in that order.
So Adam and Dorothy, you guys have both sat on Students' Council. I've done that. Adam, you're a part of fraternity. I've done that as well. And Dorothy, you've also you sat on CBAS. I've done that as a liaison for Students' Union, and you've been AVPX as the researcher. I've started my own group that encourages people to get active. Now, why do you think your experience is better than mine, seeing that you've only done a fraction of what I've done? In terms of my testament for my success, I've been elected 4 times.
Thank you. Adam to respond.
Oh, there we go. I thought your group was inactive right now, Petros. Is it still going? Still going good? In terms of actual experience, I mean, at the end of the day, so long as you're involved in campus, I don't really see what the big difference is. We've all been involved in council, we've all been involved in fraternities, we've all been involved in student groups, and it's really how that experience affects us that makes us good at this position. And I'd say that just personally, I haven't been in university for as long as Petros has, and I'm very energetic, I'm very passionate about the position because of the experience I've had at school. I think some of the candidates who might be a little bit older don't have that same level of energy simply because they're a little bit older, and granted they've been involved. Sorry.
Dorothy?
Thank you for the question, Petros. I just want to clarify, I put in between 15 and 20 hours per week on my work with the Collective Body for Art Students, and work between 25 to 30 hours a week for the Students' Union on top of being a full-time student, so I don't particularly appreciate that assertion. I would also like to note that it's very important in any lobby meeting with any politician to be the most knowledgeable person in the room. I've spent the last year researching student issues, and I believe that I am the most knowledgeable person, aside from probably Fareed, in this room right now on those things.
We are moving on to the Vice President academic race. Candidates are Dustin, Kelsey, Sam, and Kitzawa. Speaking first, Dustin, followed by Kelsey, Kitzawa, then Sam.
Hey everyone, my name is Dustin Chellin, and I'm running for Vice President Academic of the Students' Union. For those of you that don't know me, last year I was the founder and president of the Interdepartmental Science Student Society, which has now grown to the largest faculty association on campus. This year I'm working as their Vice President Academic, and I'm committed to advocating on behalf of undergraduate students. If I'm elected, there's 3 major things that are important to me. The first is supporting student representatives. I think the SU can be a stronger student advocate if we better communicated with, trained, and supported the over 400 student representatives on campus. Secondly, I'm passionate about advocacy policy reform, or academic policy reform. I want to see an improved grading policy that makes it clearer and more transparent how your grades are determined. I'm also passionate about an academic compassion policy. I want students who are facing hardship throughout the semester to be able to defer their term work until later. Lastly, I'm committed to listening to you. I want to reinvigorate the Students' Union survey, reestablish the academic relations group, and build a consultation team to go out and listen to you, because I believe the Students' Union's power is based off of how in touch it is with its members. If these resonate with you, I encourage you on March 7th and 8th to vote for me as your Vice President Academic. Thanks, guys.
Kelsey?
So my name is Kelsey, and I'm running for the position of Vice President Academic. I am passionate about the student experience, and that's why I'm running. I'm not running because it's the next logical step from my previous positions. That being said, I do have experience on student council, and I am knowledgeable on how things work within the Students' Union governance. Once elected, there are two main things I plan on focusing on. The first is making the academic environment friendlier towards students, and the second is encouraging the university to help make students more employable upon graduation. So, to expand on my first point, I plan on working with the book publishing companies and other Canadian universities to find creative ways to bring down the cost of textbooks. I also plan on hosting a second undergraduate research symposium in the fall. For this event, I would hope to see 500 students from a variety of faculties participate and to find more funding and more awards to make this happen. I also plan on rebuilding the exam bank. It's a great tool for students to use, and it's actually a university policy to make this happen. To do this, I would talk to professors and department chairs to inform them on why it's a great tool for students to use. To expand on my second point of making students more employable upon graduation, I plan on continuing to work with a student attributes plan, talking to department chairs, getting their feedback, seeing what they feel students need to have upon graduation. I also plan on advocating for more co-ops for students. They're a great way for students to gain real work experience before they graduate, and making that happen. Vote for Kelsey on March 7th and 8th. Thank you.
I just want to take this time at this point to note the time. It's 12:50. We will likely be running to 1:30, so I apologize for those of you that will have to go to your 1 o'clock class. Again, this is being live streamed, and we will have the video available after the fact. But we will likely be running till 1:30 today. So if you want, you can take this opportunity to exit if you need to. Sorry, Kinsella, go ahead. You have 1 minute 30 seconds. And you can wait for people that need to wait.
I have a vision. A university where every student is supported and motivated to succeed academically. Incoming, transfer, senior students, and alumni create an engaged network through a campus-wide mentorship program. Where the barriers in place between students, faculty, and admin are replaced with open communication through bi-monthly university-wide forums and student-teacher blogging partnerships that begin the conversation to change classroom structures in order to include all learning types. Alongside this open communication, we will grow experiential learning through the promotion of community service learning across faculties and expand the undergraduate research symposium to include more research that benefits our communities. I see us shaping the future of academic materials by including students in the conversation surrounding ebooks, copyright, and working alongside other institutions in order to find sustainable solutions. My vision is one that includes the VPA portfolio working hand in hand with all members of the U Alberta community. So if we share the same vision of one-on-one student support, classes that are tailored for student success, and academic materials that cater to student needs, then a vote for you is a vote for Q. Check out kinsella.ca for the nitty-gritty on my campaign, and come out and vote on the 7th and 8th because we are the university. Thanks, guys.
And Sam.
Hi, my name is Sam Ruth, and I'm running for the position of Vice President Academic. My biggest goal for this upcoming year is really to humanize the educational experience and allow students to go out and learn by living and connecting with people and seeing the impact of their knowledge. So 3 things will help me do this. The first is the Undergraduate Research Initiative, taking this, catering undergraduate research towards solving problems in the community, and also leaving this as a platform for students to come up with community-based projects. Then I wanted to integrate this with community service learning, which would essentially allow students to go out, implement these solutions or projects in the community, and still receive university course credit for it. My last idea is to consolidate information about all academic opportunities, things such as scholarships, internships, summer job offers. Put this all into one centralized website so you're not going to 40, 50 different websites to look for this information. So why am I here? What am I fighting for? I feel like I'm here fighting for ideas that I believe will replenish our sense of community and human connectedness. As human beings, we find happiness from each other, sadness in each other, fulfillment and purpose in each other. I'm fighting for education that is impactful, education that is connected to the community and therefore purposeful. I want education to be deeply meaningful to you. So if this is the type of education you believe in, vote San Ruth for Vice President Academic. Thank you.
All right, moving into question period for the Vice President Academic race. Kinsella will start us off with a question. It'll be answered in the order San, Dustin, Kelsey. You have 20 seconds.
To quote Leah Trueblood's 2009 submission to the academic plan, universities have struggled to incorporate the fundamental ideas that students yearn to substantially contribute to their learning experience and their academic community. How do you plan to integrate your platform into our current academic plan, stay true to its promises of academic integrity, whilst ensuring work and dedication done by past VPs is not made?
The question was regarding the academic plan and how your role will work to serve the goals of the academic plan, particularly with reference to the 2009 submission to the academic plan.
Okay, so my platform focuses on three things from the academic plan. The first is undergraduate research, the second is attributes and competencies upon graduation, and the third is community focus. So my platform integrates academic culture with community service learning for the benefit of the student and the community. Students will develop the necessary research and analytical skills, but also students will be able to develop impactful community projects and work within our communities while implementing them. So just some quick statistics on how community service learning would help develop the student. In a study in 2010-2011 on CSL placements, 78% of students enrolled in CSL said it helped contribute to understanding. It helped contribute to help them understand social change.
Thank you. Dustin?
Thank you very much for the question, Kinsella. I've worked closely with the past 4 Vice President academics, John, Leah, James, and Emerson, to focus on the academic plan. I contributed to 2 complementary documents to that academic plan, and I know the contents that are in it. That's why my platform points are aligned with some of the university's vision, like a better and stronger advising policy, improving the grading policy, which I worked on with VPAs for the past 2 years, with James Easton as well as Leah Trueblood, continuing to work on graduate student attributes as Leah and Emerson have worked on, and continuing the work on the undergraduate research symposium that James and Emerson have worked on. Thanks.
And Kelsey.
The U of A is a research-intensive university, and there are certain drawbacks to students that happen because of this. That being said, students shouldn't be negatively affected because of this, and they should benefit from the research that does happen at the university. Because of this, I'm going to have the undergraduate research symposium happen again, so that students can showcase their research that they're doing. Thank you.
The next question goes to Sam, answered by Dustin, and then Kelsey, and then Kinsella. 20 seconds.
My question is, the student attributes plan is an important part of the VPA portfolio. How will you foster the development of these specific attributes in a concrete way? Thank you.
Dustin to answer.
Thank you very much for the question, Sam, and I think that's a key question that we first need to discuss with administration and students. The Graduate Student Attributes Plan is something that Emerson Chorba, current VPA, has been working on, but it's not nearly complete. There's still university governance that graduate students need to be brought through, better consultation with students, and better consultation with administration, and that's the first step that I'd like to do. After that, I'd like to work with community service learning, undergraduate research initiatives to make sure that the attributes that we're committing ourselves to are followed through in classrooms so that you can become an engaged leader, talented and able to persist through difficulty. But I think our first step is for making sure that the university thinks that building our character is important. Thanks.
Kelsey?
The student attributes plan is directly in my platform, and one thing that I had mentioned earlier was talking with department chairs, getting their feedback, seeing what skills they want students to graduate with. That's something I can directly do. Whether or not I can actually implement those skills into courses, I'm not sure, but that's the long-term goal of the academic portfolio, is finding ways to implement these skills into existing courses so that we're not making more courses for students to take in order to get their degree. Thank you.
And Kinsella.
That's an awesome question, San. I also believe that we need to talk to students more about this and talk to admin and talk to our faculty about this. But I believe that our student attribute plan should be important to every executive, not only the VPA, even though it is the responsibility of the VPA portfolio to realize this goal. I believe it is through ensuring every learning type is given equal opportunity to learn that we begin our goal of uplifting the whole people. And by empowering students to take their knowledge and skill into our communities through the promotion of community service learning and undergraduate research that affects our communities, and that one-on-one support that will be started by the campus-wide mentorship program, that is how we will realize this goal. But I know that it'll take years to do, so I think that we need to get our VPAs working together, the one from the last year, and the one for the next year, and the one from the next year after that, and bring in more students.
Thank you. Dustin to ask a question, 20 seconds.
As you know, the Vice President Academic is responsible for working with and overseeing faculty association on campus. You're also probably aware that $27,000 of student money was stolen from the Business Students Association this year. If you were VPA when this happened, how would you remedy the situation? And number two, make sure it never happens again.
Responding, Kelsey, Kinsella, Sam.
Once elected, I plan on working with the faculty associations to ensure that they have a double signing authority so that these funds can't go missing, so that both the president and the finance officer both have to sign checks in order to release money from their bank accounts. Numerous student groups have these, and all faculty associations should have this. I'll also look into their bylaws, making sure that there's no loopholes and that everything is sound for these associations to function properly.
I actually believe most FAs already do have double signing authorities. I know the one that I'm vice president of does. And I think that we need to work together. We need to communicate better with the faculty associations and go to the meetings and be present. Have them be a part of the SU community, not just an area. I would also like to work with VP OpsFi and create different seminars that we can bring all FAs to so they can learn if something's going wrong. These are the steps. And it is really unfortunate, but that was one student, and one rotten apple shouldn't ruin the bunch. So I think our FAs are working really well. We just need to work closer with them and ensure that they are responsible and all of the members that are on there have the integrity needed to lead.
And Sam.
Yeah, what I wanted to do was work with FAs to ensure that policies are in place so this doesn't happen again. Like Kinsella said, one bad apple shouldn't ruin the bunch. And next I wanted to work with VP OpsFi to allow FAs to learn more about budgeting and, again, ensuring that this doesn't happen again. Thank you.
And last, Kelsey to ask a question, responded by Kinsella, Sam, and Dustin.
Within the scope of the VP academic position, what are 3 specific ways you plan on advocating to make students more employable upon graduation?
Kinsella?
I love this question so much. All right. I believe that there are different ways to incorporate students in experiential learning. We can use co-ops, we can use CSL placements, and we can use undergraduate research to push it. I believe that working alongside with our professors and helping them develop the attributes that we want, develop the attributes in students that we would be proud of. I'm gonna take this again. Sorry guys, a little bit nervous, tomato face. I think that one of the things that we can really do is, with our mentorship program, bring alumni who work at a company and have them work and create co-ops for the students that are going to the U of A now. and bringing alumni in who are now doing graduate studies and are doing research, and bringing them in and partnering them up with students who are interested in doing graduate research, who are interested in going into their studies.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sam?
I believe the key to this is really community service learning. I'm going to give you those statistics that I didn't get to finish off. So in a study in 2010-2011, 459 students were in a CSL placement. And 78% of those students said CSL helped them to understand how to contribute to social change. And 79% of those students said CSL helped them to understand the complexities of social issues. 70% of those students said CSL helped them to develop transferable skills such as leadership, communication, research, and or critical thinking skills. Yeah, I think the benefits are obvious, and CSL learning is the way to go. Thank you.
And Dustin.
Thanks, Kelsey. Addressing your specific question, there's 3 ways that I would do it. The first is working on the student attributes plan so that students can better communicate the characteristics that they have that set them apart from a U of C student to their employers. Secondly, and there's lots of them, I would make sure that students can understand the resources they have available by working with advisors so that they better understand different career opportunities that a degree would lead to, and that's why reforming the advising system is a part of my platform. Finally, like Sam said, I think that working on community service learning is important, and that's why as Vice President Academic of the ICE, I advocated for a brand new Science 299 Community Service Learning course, and I'll continue to do that as SUVPA. Thanks.
All right, those were your Vice President Academic candidates. Moving on to the final race speaking this evening, the big job, President of the Students' Union. The speaking order will be Colton, Fareed, Addy. 1 minute 30-second speaking.
Hello, everyone. There we go. Hello, everyone. So my name is Colton Yamagishi, and I am running for Students' Union President. I'm here today for 2 reasons. Number 1, to tell you why I want to be your president, and number 2, why I'm the best person for the job. So some of my fellow candidates will tell you that they're running for president because they love student life. I love student life, and that's why I ran for Vice President Student Life this year. That's why I lobbied for student mental health. That's why I led 4,979 students to break the record one more time. As your president, I want to be the president so that I can be the voice for the students. I want to be your president so that I can tackle big issues like fee increases and tuition hikes. And I want to be your president so that I can carry this organization that I love to do bigger and better things than ever before. I hope you've all seen my platform, the 3 R's: revolutionize communications, restrict backward tuition, and reignite past promises. I have a platform that is reasonable, responsible, and will catalyze change for your students at the University of Alberta. I'm the best candidate for this position, not just because I care, but because I have the most experience, the most passion, and the most dedication to your students' union. So this Wednesday and Thursday, come out and vote me, Colton Yamagishi, to be your next students' union president. Thank you.
Fareed?
Hello everyone, my name is Fareed Scanner, and this year I served as your Vice President External. 55% of you cited academics as very traumatic or extremely stressful, followed by 33% who listed finances. My platform tackles both of these issues. First, a student academic center to consolidate all the scattered offices of academic advisors and career counsel into one front desk where you go to if you need any help with academics. Second thing I'd like to do is, the reason why I'm running, I've said it multiple times past week, is because I love student life. But there's another reason, and I've never mentioned it before, and it's the $300 cost fee that each of you pay for the university. If you go on the university website and look at one of the examples of what the cost fee pays for, it lists circulation space. Does anyone here know what that means? Yeah, exactly. It's an architectural term for hallways. Lying to students has never been done so poorly before. This is something that I'm extremely passionate about. I've worked I've worked for 12 months to try to get you a referendum on the cost fee, and I haven't been successful, along with the president. But I'm not done with this yet. I'm not done with this file, and I won't stop until the job is done. Thanks.
And Addie.
Grab a drink of water. Just give me a second. Yeah, a bottle of water.
So, hi everybody, my name is Addie, and I'm running to be your Students' Union president, and I want to tell you why. I'm running because I believe we need to resist. We need to resist faculty cuts, budget cuts, tuition increases, fee increases. I think that for too long, we have been paying for mistakes we did not make, and it's time for that to stop. Whether it's the $300 cost fee that pays for nothing, or whether it's market modifiers that are so incredibly unfair. I think it's time we stood up and told the government and the administration exactly what it is that we want and exactly what we think about this. I believe we need to fight for tuition rollbacks, for a more affordable and more accessible post-secondary education system in this province. I want to reform the role of the Students' Union to make social justice a priority. I want to expand the mandate of Sustain SU so that we have our very own Students' Union Center for Social Justice and Sustainability. Finally, I want to engage differently. I want to work with groups like Public Interest Alberta, the Alberta Federation for Labour, and work together, because together we are strong and together we can make change, both locally and globally. I believe that by partnering with these organizations, we can truly be effective in making this province a fairer one. If you believe, my friends, that education is a right, and if you believe that we need to stand up and fight, then join me this week by voting for...
Thank you. All right, question period. Addie will be up first to ask a question. Fareed will answer, followed by Colton.
Too much coffee. It's fair trade, though.
20 seconds.
I believe that the SU has a responsibility to make social justice a priority. As you know, my platform, just as I mentioned, includes the proposal to expand Sustain SU, Sustain SU's mandate to include social justice, to create our very own Students' Union Center for Social Justice and Sustainability. My question to you is, what do you think of this proposal? And if you don't like it, what's something innovative that you have?
Fareed to respond.
While I'd like to give my opinion on the proposal, I haven't learned anything beyond expand the Sustain SU initiative. So if I was giving a specific example, I would like to rate it. I know that Sustain SU tried to expand its mandate before and it didn't work out so well. So that's why we do limited things. And on social justice, I'd like to say that the mission of the Students' Union is to help you change the world. The Students' Union should not be abused as a way to drive certain political ideology. And lastly, we are already members of Public Interest Alberta. I sit on the Public Interest Alberta Post-Secondary Education Committee, so Addie won't have to worry about that one in his platform. Thanks.
Colton.
So I agree with Fareed on this one. I think that having a center for social justice is a great idea, but we're still building our advocacy department. I think that we need to empower SUSJ to build their own center and make sure they have all the resources from student group services that they need. If you want something revolutionary, revolutionize communications. It's my platform point that all the rest of the candidates copy.
Next question will be Fareed, answered by Colton, followed by Addie. 20 seconds.
For the past 24 months, the Students' Union had worked on getting students a referendum on mandatory non-instructional fees. I worked on it, the president worked on it, Nick DeHaad, Aiden worked on it. So this is something that exists in both of my opponents' platform, and I'd like to know what are they going to do differently from the past two presidents and VP externals.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Colton?
is a great question. I think this is the biggest and most difficult challenge that the president has next year. So we tried to work with the university, we went to the Board of Governors, and we failed. I think we need to move on and talk to the government. We need the government to enforce the tuition cap to make sure that education is attainable by all students who deserve to go to post-secondary in Alberta. I want to make sure that we are strong in our lobbying efforts, that we push the university and the government to make sure that this is right, because what happened this year is wrong and we need to make that fixed. Thank you.
And Addie.
I think we failed to get this referendum for one reason and one reason only. I think we've been so worried about burning bridges at this university that we've forgotten to build more. I think we've been so worried about defending the status quo and we've been slowly chipping away at it that I think we need to stop, take a look, and knock it down. My proposal to fix this issue is to get out there and tell the university exactly what we want, to talk to the government and tell them exactly what we want and exactly how we want it. Go out there with picket signs. We will stand out there and tell the administration exactly what we want by yelling at them every day if we have to. But I'll tell you one thing, and I'll tell you it now, that if we have to, and if tuition goes up and if fees go up when I'm in office, they won't go up before I go down. Thank you.
For the final question, Colton, answered by Addie, followed by Fareed.
So, timing is great, and it looks like my question is almost a rebuttal to the last one. Why do you want to undo years of relationship building by starting a conflict relationship with the university? Resistance from our party will just lead to more resistance from both sides.
I'm going to rephrase that question to both candidates, as it seems like it's targeted to one. It will be related to the role of conflict in university relations. So 45 seconds, Addie to respond.
Thanks for the question, Colton. As I said, I think we've been really worried about burning bridges and we're forgetting to build new bridges. I think those bridges, over time, bridges get condemned and need to be broken down, and I think this is one of those. We really need to be fighting hard. We really need to be getting out there and telling the administration exactly what we want. I think for too long, we've been sitting with the status quo, we've been slowly chipping away at it, and as I said, it's time now to knock it down. These relationships have an expiry date, and I think the time's now. Thanks.
And Fareed.
The last protest the SU had was in 2010 when the cost fee was implemented. It was $550 first. After the protest, it was bumped down to $300. So there is a time and place for protests. But what's going on in Quebec right now is an effective use of advocacy, but having protests for the sake of protest kills the message that we want. Going to protest a 1.45% tuition increase to the average Albertan who looks on the Edmonton Journal, it won't matter that much. But $500 or $300, that's a good use. So there's a time and place for protests, just not every single year. Thanks.
All right, folks, so that's the end of the candidate speaking turns. Now I turn the floor over to you. There are microphones to the left and to the right. You can line up. Remember, you need to direct the question at an entire race. I will not accept questions that do not follow that format. If I find that if I feel like the question is targeting a particular candidate in a race, I will reword it more generally. I will start with my right. We have about 15 minutes for questions. Start with my right here. Oh, is the mic on? Is the mic to the left on?
Can you hear this? Okay.
You're there? Good.
Yep.
Go ahead.
So this is directed towards the Andy brought up the issue of online plebiscites for both sustainability and economic reasons. So what other steps will you take towards a paper-free campus?
I'm going to reword that. So Vice President Operations and Finance candidates, the question is regarding a paper-free campus. I'm going to go with Mike, Andy, Jessica, Murtaza. 45-second responses each.
So sustainability is something that is a big passion in my life. So one of the things I did include is like water bottle free subs. So that is, or bottled water free subs. So that is something I do want to look into. Anything that we can do to try to use less paper and make ourselves more efficient, I'm totally going to be up for, so long as it doesn't cause too much of a burden on students. For example, when I did print all my posters, I printed on FSC certified paper, which if you notice, Andy's lawn signs are not printed on FSC certified paper. Thank you.
Andy.
Thank you for the question. Paper reduction is valuable both for economic reasons and for environmental reasons. But we must not forget that the VP Operations and Finance has domain within the Students' Union, but not all of campus. So what we can look at is reducing paper usage within the Students' Union, for example, by mandating that we only purchase printers with double-sided capability, and then mandating that we only print double-sided where practical. My business, Subprint, does use FSC certified paper.
Jessica.
Okay, so I think that's a great question, and if I'm elected as VP OSPI, I'd definitely like to look in to reducing the amount of paper that the SU uses. I don't think it's feasible to obviously cut all the paper usage within the SU, because that'd be a little bit ridiculous in 1 year, but I do think it is important, and more research would have to be done for that. Thanks.
And Murtaza.
Thank you very much for this question, just because I love the technology aspect of this. Some examples of, so basically a little bit of background is, outside of this, I work for Alberta Health Services as an IT guy, and some of these practices that we use in terms of printer consolidation and double-sided printing, I know how to make those things more efficient. Other examples of this is, when I build websites, so I do web design on the side, I use web hosting that is green generated, so their servers are powered by green technology. Those are things that I think would be great for the SU. So if you want to talk technology in terms of making things more paperless and more eco-efficient, I can talk to you about that all day.
All right, so who's at the back of the line over there? Can you put your hand up? Back of the line? Back of the line? Okay, you're the last person over there. Back of the line over there, you're the last person over there. We're gonna try and get to you, but nobody line up after those people, okay? You see? All right, to my left, question.
Hi there, I'd like to address the presidential race. There's been a lot of talk lately about corporations on campus, specifically within the Nestle stuff going on lately. We all know that the university is currently looking for a vice president of advancement, looking to draw funds to actually bring some money onto our campus here, more so than what we're getting right now. So, question to the presidents, what do you think is the role of corporations within the SU?
First to go will be Fareed, followed by Colton, followed by Addie.
I don't see a huge role for corporations. We do quite a bit of investing, and it's 99% socially responsible. So outside of that, we are working for students and we're being served for students. We're not being corporatized as the same way as the university, and I really don't see it happening anytime soon. Thanks.
Colton.
So the first thing I want to clarify is that the VP advancement is really just a new name for the Chief Advancement Officer, a position that already exists. When I look at the Students' Union, the only corporation that we really work with is Coca-Cola, because they give us money that comes back for scholarships. I think that we can work with corporations in these times when we really get great things back from them and it's affordable to us, but our Students' Union is so strong that we really don't need corporations for anything else. We have our own businesses and our own services, and the SU is our brand.
And Addie.
I think I'd like to echo the sentiments made by both my competitors over here this, I think the first time this evening. I would like to say yes, I think we're doing very well without corporate help. I don't see the need for much corporate help. I think the partnership we have with Coca-Cola is questionable in itself and requires review. But overall, I do not believe that corporations have much of a role to play in the Students' Union, and I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Over here.
All right, this one's targeted towards the presidential candidates.
I'm the director of Sustain SU, and I've been involved with the organization for 3.5 years. And over that time frame, I've been involved in 2 significant initiatives. The first was the sustainability assessment that used 2 peer-reviewed frameworks that integrate both social justice and sustainability into their measurements. And the Students' Union has come up with a number of recommendations for that. The second was the redevelopment of ECOS to Sustain SU, and that also integrated sustainability and social justice into the mandate of Sustain SU. So my question is, where are the areas of growth for sustainability and social justice in the Students' Union?
Thank you. Speaking order, Colton, Addy, Fareed.
Okay, I don't know if this is really targeted at me, Ian, but the sustainability assessment as well as the redevelopment of ECOS to Sustain SU are 2 huge projects that I helped work on this year as VP Student Life. I think honestly what you're doing right now is incredible. To expand to a 3-platform base of economic sustainability, social sustainability, and green sustainability, that's huge. These are big steps that the SU is taking, and I think that we need to keep pushing along this direction rather than have an overhaul of the whole thing. I've done my research, and I know that as president, I need to spread sustainability as communication. I need to talk to students about what sustainability means to me and our organization, and that's where we need to grow, not within our platforms. Thank you.
Next up, Addy.
Great question, Ian. Thank you very much for that question. When I looked through the redevelopment plan for ECOS and to Sustain SU, I was really happy to see that we have diversified into sustainability both from in economic, environmental, and social. But we have social sustainability and not once a social justice mentioned in the entire plan that has been approved. And that is exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about making social justice a priority by expanding the mandate and including social justice specifically so that the Students' Union can be an organization and institution that fulfills its moral responsibility to our community by working towards a community that is socially just. Thank you.
And Fareed.
So the sustainability assessment, which you helped work on, which was about 100 pages and had hundreds of recommendations, was trickled down into a 1-year report where we can say what can we do now that is feasible and also economically sustainable. So what I'd like to do is also, along with the strategic plan, do a yearly report on the strategic plan and sustainability assessment every year, saying what have we reached now, what can we worry about next year, and what can we stop worrying about now because we've done it already. Thanks.
Thank you. Question over here.
Thank you very much. My question is regarding the Vice President Operations and Finance race. So my question is, despite it being clearly stated in the Students' Union and the Student Union operating policy that fair trade tea and coffee are to be sold at all SU businesses, this has not been the case at Prime Duck throughout the year. I've never been able to get a fair trade tea in the entire year. And so when this was inquired into recently, we were informed that the executive was not did not consider a fiscally viable option for SU businesses. So this to me means that our current VP Operations and Finance and our current executive is not willing to sacrifice social.
The question, please.
Is not willing to sacrifice social responsibility in the name of profitability. And what do you think of this? Thank you very much.
I'm going to reword the question for the candidates. The speaking order will be Andy, Jessica, Murtaza, Mike, and the role is fair trade in operating policy and in Students' Union businesses. Andy?
Thank you for the question. So there is a tea at Cram Dunk. The brand is 2 Leaves in a Bud, and the flavor is African Sunset. It's a rooibos tea. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but it is fair trade certified. So feel free to get a cup of that after the debate. This is an interesting policy, and I'm glad this has been brought up. Operating policy does fall under my portfolio, and it is an important part of an efficient organization. And now that it is on my radar, I would be happy to look into it, and I think that it's important for students to communicate with their elected officials when they're passionate about a certain cause. Thank you.
Jessica.
Thanks speak to the question, and so I think it's important to address if the executive committee and the current VP OSPI hasn't been following the operating policy, because it is a document that governs obviously how the SU runs, and so I can't speak too much on what they've been doing this year, but in terms of what I would do if I was elected as OSPI, I'd definitely look into, because the options are obviously not as price efficient as not as price efficient, I'd look into perhaps researching that more in depth, or perhaps revising the operating policy. Thanks.
Murtaza.
Thank you very much for the question. That is an excellent question. In terms of fiscal responsibility, or whether or not that offering free trade tea is a fiscally good decision, well, those costs are passed on to students in terms of what the cost of the tea is. And I happen to know from the more corporate coffee and tea places on campus that students are willing to pay a lot more money for tea than what is currently being sold at Cram Dunk. So I think offering fair trade tea is a great plan, and it's something that I've learned about a lot more over the past couple of years, just because of the great student interest in offering these socially just products on campus. So I think that's great.
And Mike.
So I'd just like to say, when I did originally say that we did not sell single fair trade tea on campus, that's because talking to multiple SU employees, they were not informed that they actually did sell one. So it was just actually found out today that we do sell one. I do think that this is horrendous in the sense that A, there's been 3 groups on campus actually giving away free fair trade tea on campus every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And also we are currently pushing through a food policy that includes lobbying Airmark and the university to offer more fair trade options, when we only in fact offer 1 out of 19 options that are currently downstairs right now. I think this is deplorable, and I think if we're not actually going to stand up for socially responsible stuff like the value statement in our strategic plan says, then take it out of policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question over here.
My question is to the VP academic race. I'm sure you'd all agree that faculty associations are important to our campus. As president of the largest one, I'd have to agree myself. But if I was to pick the candidate based on the person who had talked to me, I'm the president of the Interdepartmental Science Society and the largest faculty association, I'd actually be voting for Mr. Sumar, who's running for Student Life. I'm wondering what you'll do to both consult with and to support faculty associations if elected.
Okay. I was worried about where you're going with that. The question will be answered in the order Kelsey, Sam, Kinsella, Dustin.
Once elected, during my transition months, I plan on meeting with the heads of the faculty associations, seeing what support they need in the upcoming year, and build relationships so that they feel comfortable talking to me whenever they do need support.
Sam?
I think definitely using COFA or the Council of Faculty Associations to really get faculty associations to voice their concerns during our meetings, and also building personal connections with faculty associations. I feel that should be stressed more in order to support them. Right now, we're all functioning off an obligational level, and sometimes people won't answer their emails or won't reply to you. But if you know them personally, I think this is a great way to start supporting faculty associations. Yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Kinsella?
I'm the vice president of the Native Studies Students Association, for those of you who don't know that about me, and we were actually a faculty association that was on probation at the beginning of this year, but we were able to work together as an executive, and the only reason why we were able to get off probation is because of that guy right there. Emerson working hand in hand with us and creating an organization where we know what's going on, where we can pass on all of our knowledge onto the next executive. So how I would consult with FAs, just going to their meetings, like going to one meeting a month makes such a big difference, just conversation with them. And working together and making sure that at the COFA retreat that there are sessions for them to be educated on the different aspects of an FA and the different responsibilities that affect FAs. And I don't think that the VP academic is only listening to FAs. He should be listening to all other students.
Thank you. Dustin.
Sorry for not talking to you earlier. I figured that the 10 hours a week we spent together in the ICE office would have sufficed anyways, but sorry about that. I do spend a lot of my time working with other FAs, so as the VPA of the ICE. I sit as the chair of the Council of Faculty Associations Subcommittee on Advising, where I have listened to the concerns and worked with 6 other faculty associations, and I've attended Council of Faculty Association meetings for the past 2 years. So I think I'm fairly aware of how important their roles are here on campus. If I'm elected, some of the things that I'd like to do are improving relationships by building more informal relationships and trying to get rid of that power structure that can be uncomfortable in certain times, working on building a comprehensive FA retreat that includes sessions on advocacy and budgeting, and including scholarships for representatives like you and the other student representatives here who spend about 30 hours a week advocating on students. Thanks.
All right. Before we take this question here, just really quickly, I'm going to start limiting speaking or responses to 30 seconds, and we will be cutting off questions at 1:45. Go ahead.
Okay, this is a quick question for the presidential candidates. What are 2 things that you disagree with each of your opponents, and you can't say nothing?
All right. So again, 30-second responses. The speaking order: Addy, Colton, Fareed.
Turns out I actually had a couple of points written down, and it's my Google Docs. I'm trying to pull it up. It looks like it's going to take a... Oh, there you go. All right, just 1 sec. Thank you.
Your time is running.
Oh, is it? Okay, all right. 2 things very quickly. Fareed's, on Fareed's platform, the cost fee proposal, I think it's bizarre that Fareed hasn't really done his research in that. The cost fee was proposed as a non-permanent fee. It's going to go away at some point, and he's advocating to decrease the cost fee with pegged to the increases in tuition. What that is essentially a recipe for a long-term tuition increase, which I think is rather unfortunate if you want to vote for somebody who wants to do that. Colton, I think
Thank you. Colton, these are 30-second responses now, so we can get through everybody's questions.
Speed round. So with Fareed, I don't agree with the Academic Advising Center. The Welcome Center project is already being proposed by the university. They're taking care of this, and I think that we need to work on getting more advisors rather than trying to expand and have everybody come to one space. It's just not reasonable. Secondly, for both of them, looking for tuition rollbacks and eliminating the cost fee, the same thing as asking the university for $200, $300 check in the mail. It's not going to happen. We need to be where we are at and lobby for reasonable change. We need to look for referendums to vote for students because the government is our helper here, not the university.
Fareed.
With Addy, social justice and the SU needs to reform. With Colton, reigniting past promises. Whoever's the next president will have to work on fall reading week, the PAW Center, whether they like it or not. I do know that the cost fee is on a 1-year term, but historically speaking, it's gone up every single year. It's not going up anytime. It's not going to leave anytime soon unless we start pushing for it. And University of Calgary was successful bumping down their equivalent of the cost fee from $450 to $300, so we can do it too. Thanks.
Thank you. Where did I leave off? I need to go over here, right? Is that right? Yeah. Over here, yeah.
All right, thank you. This question is for the presidential candidates, but I'm hoping all of the candidates will email a response to me and you guys know how to get my information.
Scott Nickel, everybody. Go ahead with the question, please.
Mental health has finally gained needed attention on campus. Yet this fall, when I finally attended student counseling services after 4 years suffering in silence following a sexual assault, the counselor that spoke with me initially tried to refer me to a group breakup boot camp, which is truly bewildering, I know. Sadly, I know I'm not alone in facing obstacles to finding support for mental health needs. If elected, what tangible steps would you take to ensure that students find the support that they need and access to the mental health services that they require?
Fareed, Addy, Colton.
All right, so Student Counseling Service recently got 5 new counselors, and there is space for more, so it's a question of money on how to increase it. Can I do that in a year? That's something that I'll work on, but I can't promise you that it will happen in a year. What I do know is if we do move CAPS outside of SUB into a student academic center, we'll have a place to put Student Counseling Service in CAPS, which is a huge space, and you can have one front desk for the University Health Services, so you won't have to be ashamed to walk into health service, whether you're sick physically or sick mentally. So a long-term solution.
Addy?
Thank you very much for the question, Scott. I think it is very fortunate that mental health has been discussed on multiple platforms during this election. And I think I'm very excited that if anybody gets elected in any of these races, it'll be something that'll be worked on for sure. I'm really sorry to hear about the experience, and I think that a review, I think that is the sort of thing that mandates a review of how the service is administered, and certainly funding is something that needs to be looked at as well.
And Colton.
Thanks, Scott, for the great question. Mental health is huge, and that's why the Vice President of Student Life and the Dean of Students are looking to have more counselors all across campus, not just in student counseling services. We're looking at putting counselors in residences and looking at sending students to external bodies that can be covered by their health and dental plan if we don't have enough counselors on campus. I think we need to go out and be proactive, to engage students and make sure we address their problems before they come running to us. One thing that we really need to do is make sure that we're promoting mental health in our platforms, and I don't understand why.
I know that the 30-second responses aren't doing these questions justice, but again, you have made the offer that the candidates can contact you after to elaborate on the responses, so thank you for that. Question from over here.
Hi guys. This question is for Vice President External. Obviously, you guys all have tons of experience in student governance, and as a faculty association representative, I would like to know what experience you think is most important for being VP External.
Dorothy first, Petros second, Adam third. 30 seconds.
I think that all experience is relevant to being the Vice President External. There have been some VPXs in the recent past who haven't had a lot of experience, and they've done a terrific job. For the last year, it's been my job working with the Students' Union as an external policy researcher to know this stuff. And I do think that knowledge is really important to the portfolio. So I think that that's key, but I think that anybody can do a good job.
Petros.
I'll agree with Dorothy on that point, that I think all the candidates right here are fantastic and etc. But when it comes to a key experience, again, it's about communicating that knowledge to politicians. It's more than just knowledge, and there's been past candidates, VPXs, who weren't, let's say, researching, etc. But you still need to have that crucial ability to communicate that knowledge. And I think my testament for engagement is really important, because I really want to revamp this portfolio to be more student-centered. So, yeah, engagement and communications.
Just really quickly, agreeing that knowledge is a big part of it, but I think the biggest thing for this position is being able to handle pressure situations. You're walking into that room with a politician, they're typically a lot older than you are, they have a lot of knowledge, it's very intimidating. You have to be able to walk into that room and remain calm and remain composed. And speaking as a guy who played a lot of higher level sports in my life, I feel like handling a pressure situation is something that I'm very good at and will be able to achieve. So.
Over here.
My question is to the VP Academics. So I've heard a lot of talk about student mentorship programs, and they're absolutely fantastic and something that I've been doing a lot of research on myself. However, there have been two programs in the recent past, both MUGS and Vitamin A, that have failed. And working with people who work in that program, I understand the work they went to. So they went to high schools to promote it, work with orientation, all these other services, but it still failed. So I want to know why you personally think that these mentorship programs, why they fail, and what could you do differently to make sure they succeed.
All right, remember, 30-second responses. San, Dustin, Kelsey, Kitzella. San, you're on.
I'm actually not familiar with these programs, so I don't have an answer to this question, but I think it's important to look into how to make mentorship successful, because it's an integral part of education, and I'll definitely look into that. Thank you.
Dustin.
Thanks for the question. I think mentorship is important. That's why last year I worked on establishing the ICE's mini study group programs, which now attracts over 800 students here on campus. That being said, it's not a part of my VPA platform. It was a part of Emerson Chorba's VPA platform last year. When he got into the position, he learned that it didn't fit within the role of the VPA, and then it's better suited under the VPSL. So while I think it's important, I think they are too large to manage on the Students' Union, and the best thing I can do is encourage faculty associations like the ICE and the NSA to implement them instead. Thanks.
Kelsey.
I believe that a campus-wide mentorship program is unrealistic. 30,000 students, you can't tailor a specific to the individual students. Instead, I'll support faculty associations so they can specialize their mentorship programs. Science students know what first-year science students need. Same with art students. Art students can't mentor science students, so working with faculty associations to create those smaller individualized mentorship programs. Thank you.
And Kinsella.
Thanks for the question. I think that those mentorship programs might be too specific. I know that different faculties have their own mentorship programs, but they are based only for first and second year students that are incoming. There's no room for international students that are studying, that have come in, or transfer students that are coming from smaller areas. There's no room for that, and we need to make room for that. The way to make this work is through consultating more students, doing more research, getting some student jobs in there to work together. Me working with VP Ops Phi to find some funding for this, see where I can get it. Working with student life VP, hopefully not NODA,
Thank you.
Together.
All right. It is 1:45. I will allow for one more question, but I'm going to prioritize either a student life question or a Board of Governors question. Does anybody have any of those questions? You do? Okay, this is the last question for the afternoon. Sorry about that.
Okay, so this question goes to the VPSL. I just want to know what's your mentality if an event that you organize has one student in it, and that one student has an amazing time, would you call the event a success?
Good question, David. Definitely. I definitely call it a success, but I definitely also say that there's room for improvement. I think in any event, there's always room for improvement, and making sure that student experience is at its utmost is our job as the Students' Union. So I think I would definitely call that event a success. I wouldn't call it a failure by any means, but I think I'd also evaluate the event and see what room there is for improvement. So I hope that answers your question. Thanks.
All right, thank you. And thank you to all of you who stayed the whole way through to 1:46 p.m. I apologize that we weren't able to get to all of the questions. There were a lot of you lined up. I'm sure that the candidates will make themselves available to you to answer any questions that you may have remaining. Of course, you can always visit their particular campaign websites and or Facebook and all that jazz and ask them questions that you may have yourself. Again, this was streamed live. It was streamed live through the Students' Union website. It will be retrievable at a later point. Again, thank you to everybody who is here, but thank you to all of the candidates for participating in the Myer Horowitz Forum. And thank you to you as well, the audience. Again, my name is Zach Fentiman. I'm the Chief Returning Officer this year for the 2012 general election of the Executive Committee and Board of Governors representative. All I want you to do is on Wednesday or Thursday, vote. You will get an email from me telling you what to do, all right? So again, thank you very much, and we're out.